Hey guys, I wanted to make a video and show you something that I noticed today in Dr. Monty's factory. I have a lot of liquid divinium saved up and I wanted to go and do my 3 VAT spins and get a lot of Perkaholics and maybe go into Newton's cookbook and make some new recipes and stuff. And I decided to do 3 VAT spins because over the last year I'd done some research on which is better, 1 VAT versus 3 VAT. And at one point 1 VAT was better, but they changed something and 3 VAT became better for getting, more rares and also Perkaholics. Well, during my 3 VAT spins, I spent about 400 liquid divinium and I ended up only getting 2 Perkaholics throughout all of that. And it wasn't very long ago where I was getting anywhere from like 10 to 15 Perkaholics, every 100 liquid divinium. So at this point, I should have had at least 20, 25, but I only got 2. And maybe I was just extremely unlucky. Maybe I'll continue to spin and I'll start getting that normal amount of Perkaholics that I'm used to. But with the amount of research and spins that I've done in the past, this seems very different. So I started to think of any changes that they might have made, and obviously they've implemented the Newton's cookbook, so that could be affecting this in a big way. So I decided to look into this a little bit more, and that's what I was going to do today. I was going to go and start messing around with Newton's cookbook. I haven't really done much with it, but I do have every recipe that they've offered up until this point, and it's about 24 days worth of recipes. And I want to give a huge shout out to Mr. Codzilla on Reddit. He's been tracking the recipes, and there were a few that I was missing, so he's been posting them on there every day. Again, I haven't gotten to use the Newton's cookbook very much, but I had been hearing that Perkaholics come up very frequently, so I wanted to look into that and see if that's the reason why there's been this change to Monty's factory and why I wasn't getting the amount of Perkaholics like I used to. I decided to put together a chart to see which gums they're offering to us more frequently than the others. I had heard that some gums don't show up at all, and it looks like Perkaholic is definitely the most frequent. Now there's been 24 days of recipes and Perkaholic has shown up 7 times, and it's shown up every other day or every 2 to 3 days. So they're well aware of their frequencies with Perkaholic. So I'm wondering if they did make a change to Dr. Monty's and lower that probability and they've balanced it out with the Newton's cookbook. If that's true, then that makes Dr. Monty's a whole new situation, and I'm going to be going back to 1 VAT spins, and I'll explain more of that later on. But in this chart, you can see that yes, Perkaholic has been offered the most, along with near-death experience, and some of the gums they're not offering that I've been personally wanting are Round Robin and the Fire Cells. So on the chart, you can see Burned Out all the way down to Secret Shopper. Those are the ones they have not offered any recipes to make. Now, a lot of these are used to make other recipes, and that's probably the reason for that. And there's probably a reason why they're not offering the Round Robin. Those are used to skip rounds, and you can get into some really high rounds and get to some really high spots on the leaderboard, so they're probably trying to prevent that. The next thing I wanted to look into were the recipes that were required to make the Perkaholics. There's been 7 recipes offered, and every one of them has been different. When Newton's cookbook first came out, that was my big question. Are the recipes gonna be the same? Because if they are, that's great. We can, save up gums and strategize for making more Perkaholics, but no, every single recipe has been completely different. I'm sure at one point they're gonna have to start recycling these recipes. You can only have so many, so definitely save up your Burned Out, your Unbearables, and your Mind Blowns. The next thing I wanted to chart and check out was which gums are used the most in the recipes, and I was surprised to see this one, that Crawl Space has been used the most for all these recipes. And this chart is tracking all of the recipes, so we've had 24 days of recipes and 3 a day, and if you multiply that, that is 72 recipes total. And so I just counted all the gums for all the recipes, and then you can see that Crawl Space is the first one, then Burned Out, then Unbearable. And if these are really frequently used, then I would suspect that they're gonna keep using them a lot in the future recipes. So that helps out a little bit to know what we could expect. There was one recipe that was absolutely ridiculous, and I thought, well, maybe it's so ridiculous because they're trying to give us gums to reuse for the future to make better gums. And it was the Slaughter Slide, and you could make 17 of them, and that's what? That's crazy, And I was like, well, maybe they're used a lot in the recipes, but they're not. If you look at this chart here, Like hardly any slaughter slides are used to make better gum, so that was a pretty ridiculous recipe. Going back to Dr. Monty's factory, and based on the information that I've seen today about Newton's cookbook, I am going to be going back to 1 vat spins. My experience is that the 3 vat spins no longer yields the amount of Perkaholics that it used to, and the way to obtain them now is going to be through Newton's cookbook. And if that's the case, then we need to stock up on mega gobble gums and not necessarily the rare ones. And the best way to do that is to do 1 vat spins. You get anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20% more mega gobble gums than doing 3 vat spin. The reason why you get more mega gobble gums with 1 vat spin is because of this power booster. It allows you to collect all 3 vats without doing a 3 vat spin, and it comes up pretty frequently, and I've tested this a lot, and it is consistently, like every time, you get way more mega gobble gums. I made a whole video explaining how all that works, so I won't go into that again, but trust me, for me at least, it works very well. And speaking from my experience, it seems like I can no longer use Dr. Monty's for some of the better gobble gums. Looks like I'm being forced to use Newton's cookbook and being forced to use distills, which kind of cost money, and maybe that was the idea all along. And they do offer 3 free distills a day, so that's really nice, but if they've got a new way to maybe make some revenue, they might be shifting things around a little. And I definitely noticed the effects of it while trying to do a ton of spins and just being like this tester of Dr. Monty's factory. They probably don't expect the normal person to notice this kind of thing, but I absolutely did. But I hope I explained this well enough and you guys were able to keep up with all of my charts and stuff like that. But let me know if you've noticed a drop in Perkaholics and some of the other ultra rares. But I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we'll see you next video.